Have with me the legal counsel Femke Wijdekop. She holds a Master of Law degree from the Free University Amsterdam. She is a member of UN Harmony with Nature Network. For the past several years, she joined forces with late Polly Higgins, Stop Ecocide, to declare ecocide the fifth crime against peace. She is the content manager at Stop Ecocide Netherlands. Her published writing have mainly based on ecocentric in law, restorative approaches to environmental harm. In the agenda climate change, in which she is a co-litigant, in 2015, she gave a TED talk, How Law Can Save the World, and which really inspired me to get into the law school. So today I am a law student, and I saw that law is very interesting, and I've been really inspired by her talk. So today I have with me the counsel. So let me start by asking her the first question. So welcome, Femke. And can you please explain to us what do you really do?
Thank you so much, Nia, for having me on your show. I'm very honored still that my TED Talk inspired you to go to law school, which is wonderful. And I'm very glad that you joined us as a volunteer for End Ecocide Mauritius as part of the Stop Ecocide International Network. So I am trained as a lawyer. I also worked as a communicator for many years in my life. So now I sort of combine the two. We work to spread the concept of ecocide and ecocide law in the Netherlands. And in order to also lobby for ecocide law at the level of the Dutch government, but also at the European Union and at the International Criminal Court. So it combines knowledge of the law and an overview of the ways in which lawyers are seeking to restore our very broken relationship with the earth through law, be it climate litigation, rights of nature, or ecocide law. All of them are very relevant. And specifically to sort of plant the seed of ecocide law in our society, and to also help make this idea and this moral concept into a legal reality.
Okay, thank you, Femke. So the second question for you is, can you tell me what's your point of view on climate change?
Yeah, so I joined the Urgenda climate case against the Dutch state, I think back in 2014. They have been developing the concept of a climate case and preparing it for some years. They would be Urgenda, which is a Dutch NGO, and the lawyer Roger Cox. So I read about it, and it completely makes sense for me to start a case against the government based on the duty of care principle of our Dutch tort law, that by not taking enough measures to prevent the very harmful consequences and endangerment caused by climate change, that the Dutch government was forsaking its duty of care, and that there is a legal obligation for the government to actually take sufficient action to reduce the CO2 emissions. So, and they were looking for what they called co-litigants. So they made it really a process of those in the Dutch society who resonated with this. It was very innovative. I joined, and we were really exhilarated that we won the case at first instance in 2015, and later on even up to the Supreme Court. And this case has proved to be pioneering, and it has proved to be quite a visionary concept. And right now there are like 30 similar climate cases against states, but also right now there's the start of litigation against companies. So the same lawyer, Roger Cox, also won a case against the Royal Dutch Shell in 2021, which was a really major breakthrough for the accountability of fossil fuel companies to adjust their or scale up their climate policies. So for me, this is super interesting and exciting as a lawyer, but also I see climate change as part of a bigger crisis, which is that we treat nature as a commodity rather than that we exercise a proper duty of care towards the earth and also towards its inhabitants and towards future generations. So I see climate change as something very urgent. I'm very glad about all the climate litigation going on, and also for the youth activism and for the increased awareness among investors and financial institutions, and of course the fossil-free groups. But I think we have to address also the biodiversity loss and the other symptoms of our blatant disregard for the natural world. So ecocide law is a very needed addition to climate justice in order to try to keep this world inhabitable for us, but also for the non-human beings, the other inhabitants of the earth.
Okay. So, in other words, we can consider the Urgenda climate case as a landmark case.
Yeah, it's absolutely a landmark case, and is recognized as such because also Urgenda, the NGO, quite generously, quite quickly after the first victory in 2015, translated the summons and translated the case in English, so to put it available for other NGOs or organizations in other countries, so they could work with the concept, because it's quite a universal legal concept of tort or of duty of care. So I think they really laid a foundation for other cases, and others have been successful as well.
Okay. So, Femke, can you just tell me, give me some examples of ecocide that is happening right now around the world?
Yeah, so ecocide is the massive damage and destruction or serious harm to the natural world. And unfortunately, this month of January, we saw 2 new cases of ecocide happening. There was a big oil spill in front of the Peruvian coast because the oil refinery owned by Repsol, it leaked a lot of oil, actually 6,000 oil barrels spilled from the platform, because there were such high waves which were caused by the volcanic eruption at the other side of the world, which is a natural occurrence, but there were not enough safety measures in place at the refinery to prevent such a leakage. So the result was really a disastrous ecocide. And the Peruvian Minister of Justice called this an ecocide and called for the prosecution and fines of the company. And also in the same month of January, there was a big piece in Moncalamo Bay about how by spraying pesticides from helicopters and airplanes, the Amazon forest is being defoliated, or meaning that the process of deforestation is accelerated by the trees shedding their leaves because of the pesticides sprayed on them by helicopters on a massive scale. So of course the deforestation itself is an ecocide, but also this act of actually spreading pesticides from the airplane, a little bit like happened in the Vietnam War with the Agent Orange, is a really clear example of such a large-scale ecosystem destruction. Nia, I know you can tell us much more about the oil spill in front of the coast of Mauritius, which happened a few years ago. I think that would qualify as ecocide. But at the same time, we can think of the threat of deep sea mining, for example. We can think of large-scale fracking operations, which pollute the groundwater and the soil. We can, and of course, produce a lot of harmful emissions of gases. We can think of Athabasca tar sands, and also other forms of mining that just leave the land really devoid of life and leave a lasting pollution for a long time and a widespread level. Yeah.
So, can you just tell me how the law of ecocides, like, the oil spill in Indian Ocean has the sentence pronounced for the ship captain was 20 months. Last year, they were given a verdict where the captain was given 20 months of imprisonment because of the damages he caused for the coastal region of Mauritius. So, how the law of ecocide will compensate where the environmental protection laws, which normally we call most laws are anthropocentric, but how will it compensate for where the environmental protection laws have failed?
Yeah, that's a good question. There are environmental protection laws, but most of them are anthropocentric, so they're not ecocentric. It depends on harm to humans in order to qualify for the crime. But also they are usually quite specific, addressing a very specific kind of harm in a specific context, and not the overarching bottom line of large-scale environmental destruction. That is what Ecocide is about. But also that often environmental protection laws are dependent on administrative law, which means that if the harmful activity took place with a permit handed out by the administrative authorities, then the perpetrators of the harmful action are excused because the permit make it not illegal and thus not criminal for the pollutant to act that way. So it erases the criminal nature of the act if there's a permit involved, even though the permit can be faulty or it can be outdated or based on wrong information. And in my own country, the civil servants handing out those permits, they have immunity from criminal persecution if the handing out was simply part of their administrative tasks. So we see a big problem in the law that when harmful activities happen under the umbrella of a permit, even though the permit was wrongly given, that you cannot prosecute them criminally. And yes, there can be a revision of the permit, but that takes many years. And it really doesn't address the seriousness of what is happening. So I would say this, what they call administrative dependency, is a big problem. It's a big problem that it is piecemeal. It is really shattered. So there are little environmental protection rules in place here and there, but there is not an overarching moral baseline or a red line that says you cannot destroy the ecosystems. And it's really strange because it's like saying we can protect some parts of the environment in some cases very specifically and detailed, but it is okay to wreak havoc on the ecosystem as a whole. Is like saying we protect human rights, but the genocide is not forbidden. So there is a big weakness in our legal system, and also that a lot of the environmental protection laws is about mitigating harmful activity on the planet rather than forbidden, what I said, this large-scale harmful activity. So it's not based on recognizing the real intrinsic value of ecosystems. I hope it's a clear answer.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and let's see what next now. So what next what are you planning to do?
So I'm working, we are having a project at the Environmental Law Institute based in Vienna to create a model ecocide law for the European Union. I'm part of the working group, and I am the chair of the restorative justice section. So how to weave restorative justice into a model ecocide law is where my interest is now. And also I have contributed together with a South African attorney vessel, Hercules Vessels, to a handbook on environmental restorative justice that will be published by Paul Grave Macmillan this year, hopefully. So we talk about ecocide, rights of nature, and restorative justice. So restorative justice is really my passion, but there are so many cool things happening. Also the faith leaders getting behind the law of ecocide, and the youth activism, which is really key to make this a success. So I want to thank you, Nia, for doing your work and for starting this initiative. And I appreciate our connection, and let's stay in touch and support each other.
Okay, thank you. Bye, Femke.